Hi, I'm Dr. Mollie Marti. Welcome to Resiliency Matters. This is where we take the big resiliency research and best practices and break it down into tiny bite-sized pieces that you can begin using immediately at home, at school, in your communities. If we shared with you a tool that would help you feel like you're no longer an imposter, a fraud in your life, that you're actually as capable and intelligent as other people know you to be, would you spend the next 28 minutes with us? If we could give you an immediately usable tool so that you could own your success and help others that you love in your life help own their success, would you hang out with us? Who is us? Today, the other part of us is the fabulous Dr. Valerie Young, and we are here to talk about the imposter syndrome. I want to introduce you to Dr. Valerie's book. It's The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women. This is an important subtitle, Why Capable People Suffer from the Imposter Syndrome and How to Thrive in Spite of It. Dr. Young is an international author, speaker, and leading expert on the imposter syndrome. So welcome.
I'm thrilled to be here.
I've heard that this book is now in 5 different languages, including it went into Slavic languages.
Yes,
Russian.
It's in Czech and being reprinted in Russian in the Ukraine.
Fabulous. Congratulations on that. How exciting. So let's start, I think, with the number one question that everybody at home is already asking. What is the imposter syndrome?
Well, this was a term that was coined by 2 psychologists, Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes out of Georgia in the 1970s. And what they found was that despite evidence to the contrary, and often overwhelming, compelling evidence to the contrary, a lot of very intelligent, bright, capable people felt like they were fooling people. They had a difficult time internalizing and really owning their accomplishments and successes, and they thought they were fooling people and they were going to be found out.
And you have a personal story, which I love. It makes it so relevant and really put you on a mission to learn about this and share it with others. What was your first introduction to that imposter syndrome?
Well, for me, I was actually sitting in a class. I was probably 26 years old. I was in a doctoral program at the University of Massachusetts. And somebody brought in a paper on the imposter phenomenon that these 2 psychologists had written and started talking about all these people who feel like they're frauds and they're going to be found out. And I sat there nodding my head like a little bobblehead doll going, oh my God, that's me. And when I looked around the room, all the other graduate students were nodding their head. And this was shocking because these were my role models. These were people I looked up to. And yet we all felt this way.
And you even saw your instructor, I remember reading at that time, nodding her head as well.
Yeah, we all got it.
Okay, so this created an aha moment. What did you do with that? What was the next step that led to your research?
Well, we actually started a little imposter support group with the other graduate students, and we started talking about our intellectual fraudulence and how we're fooling our professors. But what happened was about 3 weeks in, I started to have this nagging sense that even though they were saying they were imposters, I was pretty sure I was the only real imposter. But I really became so fascinated by this subject. It's not logical. These are intelligent, capable people. Why do we feel this way? So I decided to change my whole dissertation topic and focus on that general topic. And I've been researching it for 25 years.
I love that. You felt like you were the only real fake, is what I'm hearing.
Exactly. They were phony imposters.
All right. So you did dissertation research that led to workshops. Kind of walk us through some of that.
Yeah, my dissertation was on the broader subject of women's self-limiting patterns and philosophies that lead us to feel like imposters.
Okay.
In the very beginning, they thought this was a uniquely female experience, and that's where I was coming from when that was the understanding. But they very quickly learned that there's a lot of men who feel like imposters as well. But I just started putting up posters and doing workshops, and people were showing up in droves. And I realized I'm onto something. And, since then I've spoken to over 60,000 people at IBM, Merck, Procter & Gamble, Chrysler, Boeing, all over the world.
You see a lot of head nodding.
A lot of head nodding.
Yeah. And we'll talk about some of those individual differences between men and women. We're very interested at the Resiliency Matters shows on teens and youth and creating stronger youth. So we'll talk about those individual differences. But one thing we promise our audience is that we pretty quickly get to these tools. So I want to start moving into tool number one. What is the starting point? If this is resonating with people at home and they're thinking, she's talking about my life, I hear her talking about her life, but this is how I feel. That, people say, good job, and you're so smart, or you're so funny, or you're so anything, and you think, oh, they're not talking about me. I guess I want to ask one question to kind of specify, what is the difference between imposter syndrome and low self-esteem?
That's actually a great question, because a lot of people assume imposter syndrome is just a fancy word for low self-esteem, but they're really different. Not to get too technical about it, but low self-esteem is more of a global sense you might have about yourself, but imposter feelings really only come up in achievement situations. You don't feel like an imposter when you're petting your dog or you're doing the laundry.
Okay.
It's related to school, work, if you own a business. So in those kinds of arenas, that's when the feelings come up.
So achievement-focused, competitive environments.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that's very helpful. So let's move toward tool number one. What is an important first step if you do feel like a fraud at work, at school, you feel that you're not nearly as accomplished as people may seem to think you are? What are those first steps?
I think it's largely a reframing process that needs to go on. One of the things research has found is that nobody likes to fail, Molly, but people who experience imposter feelings, they have shame when they fail because they feel like they shouldn't fail. They have these very high self-expectations for themselves around being a perfectionist or an expert, feeling like they need to know everything there is to know. And so we need to kind of reframe that to realize that everyone fails, and it's about learning from your failure, so to fail forward. Or to reframe, even challenge. The old imposter mental script would be, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing, right? When something feels big or hard. And the new script needs to be reframed to say, wow, I'm really going to learn a lot, and to focus on the learning value and not on the anxiety part of it.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I have to say that we were dancing. This is a new show, so I'm stretching and I'm learning. And that was one thing that my first guest, after we got done filming, we were off camera and she kind of exclaims, oh my gosh, you're a learner. Meaning we had fun with it. We were just finding our way forward. We knew it wouldn't be perfect.
Right.
And so kind of bringing that attitude. And I can certainly say that was not always my attitude. You can tell enough alphabet soup behind my name that I was certainly a high achieving, focused on perfectionist. And I've had to break a lot of those patterns over time.
Yeah, and you have to be willing to figure it out as you go along. And that goes back to the expectation. There's the kind of person I call the natural genius. And somehow they got it in their head that if I was really smart, everything would be innate and effortless. I wouldn't have to struggle. I'd come out of the womb knowing how to do advanced calculus or know how to do a TV show. How would you know until you do it? You got to do the stuff first and then fall down, get up, keep going, learn from it, and get better as you go along.
The natural genius. That is one of your 4 competence types. We're going to talk more about those when we come back. So tip number 1, reframe failure by focusing on effort and growth. Another thing we're covering when we come back, quotes by some famous people that will blow your mind. They blew my mind. We'll share them coming up next.